So for myself, I never take corporate money when I'm doing any kind of qualitative research. If I'm doing research, I just don't take money for it. 30 years ago, when I first started doing this kind of research, corporations would approach researchers and say, you know, we want to be good corporate citizens. We want to give back to the community. You're doing some interesting work. Why don't you make an education module? Or you're doing some interesting work. Why don't you interview some people to get their attitudes? And it really was, here's a check, see you later. It was a social marketing exchange. Corporations got something out of it. They were doing it to enhance their reputation in the marketplace with consumers. But there was a lot of independence. I would say that we've really shifted far away from that model. Over my career, corporate research funding has become much more directed, much more controlling, and much more interested in controlling publications and outcomes and what is said about them and their product. And I think in that environment, the ethics are rife. To me, research is an incredibly important part of the democratic process. We don't find all the answers, but boy, we talk about interesting questions, and it's important that that be disseminated in the public and brought up in public debate so we as a society can come together. The other thing I'd say about this is that everybody makes their decisions. I was going to say compromises, but everybody makes their decisions about where they're comfortable. For me, I really value independence as a researcher. I think that's a key part to the development of new knowledge. I'm also very much in favor of pure research, research to better understand the world, not just to make a buck and develop some IP for the university. And that sort of steers the situations where you'll take corporate money. When I was a young researcher, it was easier, as I said, because there were no strings attached. I've certainly worked with research projects, not for a long time actually, that took corporate money for things like putting on a conference. But that was very much a here's money, we want our logo on it, or here's money, please say that we gave you money to put on this conference. That's the kind of money that I've been comfortable taking. Throughout my career, I worked in NGOs for a long time before I joined the Academy full time. And I watched the NGOs that I was working with pursue corporate money because public money had shriveled, so they needed to pay the rent. And over again, get into these situations where they would want to do research, and yet it was so steered that they either couldn't do the research that they wanted to do, or they couldn't publish it in the way they wanted to publish it. So a lot of the work I've done over the last 15 years has been with young people. So I ran a project called the eGirls Project, where we talked to young women about their experiences of gender and equality in social media. Then I'm the PI, and I co-lead a project with Jane Bailey called the Equality Project, where we've talked to young people about their experiences of privacy and equality in network spaces. By definition, from an ethical point of view, this is a vulnerable population. And we also partner, because we're working with youth, with organizations that look at corporate money askance. So we partner with a lot of teacher associations. So one of the NGOs I used to work with harmed their reputation by taking money from the industry. So then when you're at an education conference and it comes up, you hear teachers say, oh, I don't even use their materials anymore because they sold out, or they're controlled by corporations, or it's not independent. So as a researcher, I think it's particularly important to think about the impact of taking corporate money on your reputation. So the kind of work I do makes it very, very problematic. I mean, there are people who do hard science research or technological research, which have different ethical lines drawn, and I can respect that. I don't think it's a question of, gee, just never take corporate money. Make sure that if you are taking corporate money, it's for something that you're comfortable with, that doesn't affect your integrity as a researcher. Be skeptical. When somebody offers you a big chunk of money, there's a reason for it. So think of what that reason is. For example, with the NGO situation I referred to before, working for an NGO, the government pulls out funding, they need a funder. One of the big tech companies comes in and basically says, I will save you, and used a carrot and stick kind of. If you just do this, we'll give you $1 million. Oh, if you just do the next step, we'll give you $1 million. If you just do that. And it almost derailed the NGO because they left their central central mandate in pursuit of this cash. And they did it a baby step at a time. The irony is that at the very end of it, the big tech company refused to give them any money at all. They just ghosted them. So it was fascinating to watch. So, I mean, the lawyer in me, sees that as litigation waiting to happen. The researcher in me says those are the kinds of problems you get into when you cross ethical lines simply because someone has come with deep pockets. So what we've done, I partner with a lot of NGOs because I come from that space. What we've done is we've worked very, very hard to think of ways to access research fundings from the Tri-Council. And funnel that to our research partners to support their mandates. It's a workaround. So as an academic researcher, come on, we're in incredibly privileged positions. We have these things called salary. And then on top of that, we have this thing called tenure. So it is the most privileged position you can be in. And I think it's incumbent upon us to look at those communities of non-academic researchers and think about how our partnerships can support their mandate and help the public at large be involved in the knowledge production process.